Hello and welcome to my latest video on my top 1000 countdown. This will be my last video of the day, my fourth. I'm certainly cooking now. Okay, so in this video we're going from numbers 90 down to number 81. I'm thinking of numbers in plural. So let us look at number 90. So fighter 90, okay, is great Mexican fighter Baby Arizmendi, an unrated Mexican fighter. You know, people talk about the modern fighters like Marquez, Canelo Alvarez, Barrera, Morales, and there's others, okay, but very few people mention Baby Arizmendi. Now, Baby Arizmendi beat 7 world champions. He fought 202 rounds against champions, and Arizmendi beat 5 Hall of Fame fighters, fighting a total of 187 rounds against Hall of Famers. Now, Arizmendi had 51 fights against rated fighters. He scored 20 knockouts, 9 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 3 in the first round. Arizmendi was top 10 rated for a total of 6 years. He had an unbeaten run that ran to 18 fights, and he was pound for pound rated for 1 year. Now, Baby Arizmendi had 21 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 10 wins. He scored 3 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 3 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. Oh, good to see you, Martin. Hope you're well, buddy. Oh, weather's been bad. I don't know about where you are, mate, but it's been psychotic here, weather. Wind and rain, trees blowing, trees uprooting. Not directly near me, but in area. Yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, Baby Arizmendi's opposition fought rate comes in at 7 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 4 from 13. So Arizmendi had 20 fights against champions. That includes 9 wins, 8 losses, 3 draws with 1 knockout. He had 19 fights against Hall of Famers, including 8 wins, 9 losses, 2 draws with 1 knockout. And Baby Arizmendi had 2 title fights, including 1 win, 1 loss, no draw, with 0 title defences. So Arizmendi kicks us off. When we go to fighter number 89, okay, it is Theodore Tiger Flowers. Now, Tiger Flowers, okay, beat 8 world champions. He fought 301 rounds against champions, and he beat 2 individual Hall of Fame fighters, fighting 108 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Also, it's mad where you are as well. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Now, really bad weather. Now, Tiger Flowers, okay, he had 31 fights against rated fighters in what is a slightly reduced number on what would have been. He scored 54 knockouts, okay, 25 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 5 knockouts in the first round. Now, Tiger Flowers was top 10 rated for 4 years. He had a longest unbeaten run of 22 fights. And all in all, he was pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings for a total of 5 years. Now, Tiger Flowers had 12 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 3 wins. He scored 2 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 2 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Tiger Flowers' opposition fought rate comes in at 6 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 4 from 13. Now, Tiger Flowers had 39 fights against champions, including 23 wins, 13 losses, 3 draws with 6 knockouts. He had 14 fights against Hall of Famers, including 3 wins, 8 losses, 3 draws with 1 knockout. And Tiger Flowers had 3 world title fights, including 2 wins, 1 loss, no draw with 1 title defence. So Tiger Flowers is 89. When we go to fighter 88, okay, he's a great lowerweight fighter called Luis Kid Kaplan. Now, Luis Kid Kaplan beat 6 world champions. He fought 82 rounds against champions, and he beat 4 Hall of Fame fighters individually, fighting 60 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now, Kid Kaplan had 53 fights against rated fighters. He scored 27 knockouts, 6 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 2 knockouts in the first round. And Luis Kid Kaplan was top 10 rated for a total of 6 years. He had a longest unbeaten run that came to 38 fights, but he was never pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings, interestingly. Now, Kid Kaplan had 9 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 7 wins. He scored 4 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 2 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. Kid Kaplan's opposition fought rate comes in at 7 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 5 from 13. So Kid Kaplan had 9 fights against champions, including 7 wins, 2 losses, no draws with 1 knockout. He had 6 fights against Hall of Famers. That included 4 wins, 2 losses, no draws with 0 knockouts. And Kid Kaplan had a small but unbeaten title fight record, including 4 world title fights, all of them wins with 3 title defences in there as well. So Louis Kid Kaplan, the great featherweight fighter in 88. When we go to fight at 87, it is a modern era multiweight champion, Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. Now Whitaker, beat 13 world champions. He fought 196 rounds against champions, and he beat 2 Hall of Fame fighters individually, fighting 72 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now Pernell Whitaker had 24 fights against rated fighters, and he scored 17 knockouts, 10 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 5 in the first round. Pernell Whitaker was top 10 rated for a total of 14 years, and he had the longest unbeaten run that came to 26 fights. Now Pernell Whitaker was pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings for a total of 8 years. He had 8 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 5 wins. He scored 0 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Pernell Whitaker's opposition fought rate comes in at 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 2 from 13. So Whitaker had 18 fights against champions. That included 14 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw with 3 knockouts. He had 6 fights against Hall of Famers, including 3 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw with 0 knockouts. And Pernell Whitaker had 23 world title fights, including 19 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw with 16 title defences across the weights he titled in. So from Pernell Whitaker in 87, we go to fight number 86. It is the marvellous one, Marvin Hagler. Now Marvin Hagler beat 6 world champions. He fought 76 rounds against champions, and he beat 2 Hall of Fame fighters, fighting a total of 30 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now Marvin Hagler had 29 fights against rated fighters. He scored 52 knockouts in his career, 24 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 6 in the first round. Now Hagler was top 10 rated for a total of 11 years, and he had the longest unbeaten run that came to 37 fights. Now Hagler was pound for pound rated for 6 years. He had 3 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 2 wins. He scored 1 win against a pound for pound top 3 fighter and 1 win against a pound for pound number 1 fighter. And Marvin Hagler's opposition fought rate comes in at 3 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 3 from 13. So Hagler had 9 fights against champions, including 7 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw with 6 knockouts. He had 3 fights against Hall of Famers, including 2 wins, 1 loss, no draw with 1 knockout. And Hagler had 15 world title fights, including 13 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw with 12 title defences. So the marvellous one is in 86 when we got to fight number 85. It's a great lightweight fighter from that great era with Willie Joyce and the Bobcat Montgomery and Ike Williams. It is, of course, Bo Jack, the super headliner of Madison Square Garden, as he did many times. Now Bo Jack, beat 8 world champions. With his crowd-pleasing style, it made him a natural top at card, especially at big venues like MSG. His crowd-pleasing, aggressive style, made him a natural for main event stars. So Bo Jack beat 8 world champions, for 174 rounds against champions. And Bo Jack beat 5 Hall of Fame fighters, fighting a total of 163 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now Bo Jack had a total of 48 fights against rated opponents. He scored 44 knockouts, 17 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 4 knockouts in the first round. Now Bo Jack was top 10 rated for a total of 6 years. He had the longest unbeaten run of 18 fights, and Bo Jack was pound for pound rated for 3 years. Now he had a total of 19 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 12 wins. Bo Jack scored 6 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 3 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Bo Jack had an opposition fought rate coming in at 6 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 4 from 13. So Bojack had 18 fights against champions, including 10 wins, 6 losses, 2 draws with 4 knockouts. He had 15 fights against Hall of Famers, including 7 wins, 6 losses, 2 draws with 2 knockouts. And Bojack had 5 title fights. That included 2 wins, 3 losses, no draws with 0 title defences. So on to number 84, okay, is great Mexican fighter. Another great Mexican fighter who very rarely gets mentioned. It is Kid Azteca. Now Kid Azteca beat 4 world champions. He fought a total of 128 rounds against champions, and he beat 2 Hall of Fame fighters, fighting 75 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now Kid Azteca had 35 fights against rated fighters, and he scored a massive total of 114 knockouts. He scored 34 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 4 knockouts in the first round. Now Azteca was top 10 rated for a total of 3 years. He had a longest unbeaten run that came to 19 fights, and he was pound for pound rated for 1 year. Now Kid Azteca had 11 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 4 wins. He scored 2 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 1 win against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Kid Azteca's opposition fought rate comes in at 10 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 7 from 13. So Kid Azteca had 14 fights against champions, including 6 wins, 7 losses, 1 draw with 2 knockouts. He had 8 fights against Hall of Famers, including 3 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw with 1 knockout. And Kid Azteca had 0 world title fights. So 3 fighters to go. Have a quick drink, mouth's going dry. You know, my mouth never used to go dry this much, but big shout out to Drunk Irishman in the chat. But since I stopped doing my channel with all my long live streams where I'd be on 2 or 3 hours with Bruce, random, other people, you know, and on my old channel before that, you know, Haplo and Jadal. Once I started doing shorter videos, my voice has got used to doing shorter videos. So now if I do 4 or 5 videos in a day, my mouth throat starts drying. It's like I'm out of practice. So, yeah, interesting. So from Kid Azteca in 84, we go to number 83, okay? He's the great welterweight and middleweight champion, Tommy Ryan. One of the great fighters of his era, one of the greatest fighters of his time, without a shadow of a doubt. Multi-year lineal champion at welterweight and middleweight combined. Incredible. Only got beaten by 2 fighters, okay? The dangerous Charles Kid McCoy and the excellent George Green, aka Young Corbett, the first. So anyway, Tommy Ryan, okay, beat 3 world champions. He fought 88 rounds against champions. And Ryan beat 3 Hall of Fame fighters, fighting 104 rounds against Hall of Famers overall. Now, Tommy Ryan is a pure pre-rating era fighter, had 0 fights against rated fighters. He would score 68 knockouts in his career, 19 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 0 in the first round. Now, Tommy Ryan, okay, was top 10 rated, being pre-rating era for 0 years, and he had a longest unbeaten run that ran to 41 fights. Now, Tommy Ryan was pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings for a staggering 9 years. He had 15 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 8 wins. There were a number of draws in there as well. He scored 4 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 3 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Tommy Ryan's opposition fought rate comes in at 4 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 3 from 13. Tommy Ryan was a classic boxer from his period, and one of the tricks he would use is he would extend his left hand and he would lean backwards, drawing the opponent in to then slam him with right hand counters. Very clever trick, and he actually kind of semi-taught that trick to James J. Jeffries. Jeffries would often lean back and extend his left hand as a rangefinder. Then as soon as someone came into that range, he'd unleash right hands, heavy right hands. You know, that was one of Tommy Ryan's tricks. He really was one of the great fighters of his time. So Tommy Ryan had 10 fights against champions, including 6 wins, no losses, 4 draws with 3 knockouts. He had more fights against Hall of Famers, 12 in total, including 5 wins, with just that 1 loss. Young Corbett is not a Hall of Famer, so the only Hall of Famer he lost to was Charles Kid McCoy. And he fought 6 draws with 2 knockouts. And Tommy Ryan had 18 title fights, including 17 wins, no loss, 1 draw, with 16 title defences. And like I said, pretty much a lineal champion for around a decade at welterweight and middleweight. Incredible, really. So, let us go on to fight number 82. Okay, and it is the ghost of Joplin, Jeff Clark. Now, I think Jeff Clark is well worthy of note and mention. Okay, I don't think I'd quite put him in my top 100, maybe 110, something like that. That's just my opinion, though. You know, the ratings are as they are. We'll see how he does in my new ratings. Well, I've already got an idea. I've still got 400 fighters to score. I've done like 600 now, so I'll see. So I've got an idea roughly where he's going to finish. But, we'll see. But, yeah, definitely a fighter who was an outstanding fighter, lost a lot of his big fights. But when you're fighting, McVeigh's and Harry Wills and Sam Langford's consistently, it's not that easy to win most of them. So, anyway, Jeff Clark, beat 3 world champions. He fought 365 rounds against champions. And he beat 3 Hall of Fame fighters, fighting a total of 376 rounds against Hall of Famers. Staggering number, nearly 400 rounds against Hall of Famers. Now, Jeff Clark had a much reduced figure of 15 fights against rated fighters due to the pre-rating era, and he scored 71 knockouts, 25 knockouts in 3 rounds or less, and 5 knockouts in the first round. Now, Jeff Clark was top 10 rated for 0 years. He had a longest unbeaten run that ran to 34 fights, and he was pound for pound rated for 0 years. Now, Jeff Clark had 34 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 6 wins. He scored 2 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 2 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Jeff Clark's opposition fought rate comes in at 8 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 4 from 13. One of the things about Jeff Clark that people don't understand is, he lost a lot of those big fights to Langford, Wills, etc. But who would win most of those fights? Well, no one. Okay, but he was a very good boxer, very quick on his feet. He could be very defensive, and he would often double or triple up on his jab at a time when, fighters just didn't often do things like that. You had the classic boxers like Corby, the shot placer like Fitzsimmons. You had all these skilled boxers. You had the what one writer called the grandfather of moving and counterpunching, coming in the 20s, Tommy Loughran. But you had all these different fighters with skills, but Jeff Clark was a skilled fighter. They called him the Ghost of Joplin. He was quick on his feet. He was elusive when he wanted to be. He could be aggressive and knock you out when he wanted to. He was more similar to a young Peter Jackson type fighter, or a Dave Holly. More a Dave Holly, a fighter who could be clever and defensive. Like one time when he fought Wills, he fought the whole distance, and the writer even said, had it not been for his great defensive skill, Wills would have got him out of there, because Wills were on devastating form, but he just couldn't pin Clark down to land the shots to knock him out, a bit a la Tommy Gibbons, Jack Dempsey, where Dempsey was attacking, but Gibbons' clever defence and tucking his chin in and being elusive, he just couldn't land the shots on him to get him out of there. Jeff Clark was a similar fighter to Dave Holly in that he could be aggressive, come forward, throw punches at you, knock you out, or he could be more elusive. He could double, triple up on his jab. He was light on his feet. So very versatile fighter, Jeff Clark. Sadly, he was in an era that was filled with Jack Johnsons and Wills and Jeanette's, McVeigh's, Langford's, and many others, which tarnishes what he could have done. But sadly, like I've always said, that's tough. He fought in the era he fought in. So Jeff Clark, had 39 fights against champions, including 5 wins, 28 losses, 6 draws with 0 KOs. He had 38 fights against Hall of Famers, including 5 wins, 27 loss, 6 draw with 0 KOs. And Clark had 4 title fights. All 4 of them were defeats. So, like I said, a little bit high for me, but fantastic fighter he was. So, let us go to fight number 81. That fighter is tough former lightweight champion and lineal champion Rocky Kansas. Now, Rocky Kansas, beat 7 world champions. He fought 209 rounds against champions. And Kansas beat 6 Hall of Fame fighters individually, fighting 223 rounds against them. Now, due to the pre-rating era going to the rating era, he has what would have been a reduced figure of 22 fights against rated fighters. He scored 40 knockouts in his career, Kansas, 23 in 3 rounds or less, 7 in the first round. And Rocky Kansas was top 10 rated for 1 year again. mainly due to the pre-rating to the rating era. So Rocky Kansas' longest unbeaten run was a run of 17 fights, and he was pound for pound rated for 2 years. Now Kansas had 19 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 6 wins. He scored 3 wins against pound for pound top 3 fighters and 1 win against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Rocky Kansas' opposition fought rate comes in at 8 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 5 from 13. So Rocky Kansas had 20 fights against champions, including 8 wins, 10 losses, 2 draws with 0 knockouts. He had 22 fights against Hall of Famers, including 9 wins, 12 losses, 1 draw with 0 knockouts. And Rocky Kansas had 4 title fights. That included 1 win, 3 loss, no draw with 0 title defences. So there is the excellent lightweight Rocky Kansas to end this latest video, 90 to 81. That'll be final video for today. I'm going to crack on rescoring my top 1000. I'm close to finishing the welterweights off, after which I'll go to light welter and then lightweight. Big names at lightweight, some half decent, well decent names at light welterweight. But lightweight's going to be next division where people are vying more for top 15, top 20 spots. So, you know, I'm looking forward to getting to lightweight, because as I do the main divisions that have the bigger histories, more of the big names are going in. Like at welterweight, I've covered most at great, virtually all the great fighters at welterweight. You know, Robinson, Armstrong, Kid Lewis, Britton, McLaren, they've all been scored in. I'm now going through the contenders and the lower rated champions. No, I won't be doing 4 tomorrow, Martin. No, I won't be doing 4 tomorrow. Just circumstance. I'll be doing 1 or 2 tomorrow. Then 1 or 2 on Monday, which will only leave me 4. And then it'll be Wednesday and Thursday. Probably Wednesday when I get it finished. On Wednesday, what I might do is I might do a marathon. If I've got 4 left to do on Wednesday, I'll do a marathon and just do them all back to back. Record one, upload it, make a coffee, come back, do it next one. Have a 5-minute break, come back, do it next. I may do that to get them all finished on Wednesday. But I'll see. If I've got 5 to do on Wednesday, I'll do 2 or 3 on Wednesday and final few on Thursday. It just depends, really, brother. But yeah, I won't be doing 4 tomorrow, just 1 or 2. So there's my latest video. Okay, 90 to 81. We've cracked into top 100 and we're powering down. More videos coming tomorrow. I'm the Boxing Librarian, and I'm out for now.